And this morning, my lesson is focused on healing and wholeness. And this is a class that we've been exploring for the last 4 weeks. This week is our last week as one of our spiritual education and enrichment classes. And we each have our own definition of what healing might mean to us and what wholeness represents. In this class, we've had the opportunity to really delve deeper into these concepts and examine our personal beliefs about them, and to really evaluate if the beliefs that we have fit for us today. And if they do, that's wonderful. And if they don't, how might we need to adapt or change our belief system to align more with how we understand healing today? So, what might healing mean? We're going to look at that this morning. We've had the opportunity also in this class to really look at the belief system of our co-founders of the Unity movement of Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. We've also looked at more contemporary philosophers and examined their beliefs. And some of them have been gentle, others have been more radical. So it's been fun to really explore different aspects of what healing means to different philosophers and theologians, and see what fits for us. For that's always the key. Where are we today? What fits for us? What might we need to change? So we're going to be exploring these concepts together this morning, what it means to heal. First, we'll look at the dictionary, the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which gives us really 3 definitions. The first one is to make free from injury or disease, to make whole, example, to heal a wound, or to make well again, to restore to health. The second one is to cause an undesirable condition to be overcome, such as to mend. The troubles have been healed, or to patch up or to correct a breach or a disruption of harmony between friends in a relationship, to heal a relationship with someone. And then the third definition is to restore to original purity or integrity, to be healed of sin. That one kind of took me by surprise when I saw that in the dictionary, but yes, that is one definition, isn't it? So even the dictionary recognizes that not all healing is physical. It can also involve our emotions, our relationships, our mental attitude. And in Unity, we know that healing is physical, the body. It's emotional, the mind or the emotions or the beliefs. And it is also spiritual. Healing is also very much spiritual. So before we head too deeply into spiritual, I would like to look together at a couple of terms that we toss around in Unity. I'd like us to look at the difference between spirit and soul, because we hear them used sometimes interchangeably, and they are really 2 different but very closely related concepts, spirit and soul. And the easiest way for me to visualize this relationship, and I shared this one week in class, between spirit and soul, is to picture the top of a lighthouse. Everyone picture a top of a lighthouse. Now that light burning, that glowing within the lighthouse is spirit. It is a beacon. It is constant. It is God nature. It is unchanging. It is unchangeable. It is always shining forth. It cannot be extinguished. That is spirit. And soul is our individual soul. Soul is the glass around the light, what they call the lantern pane or the window. And our soul is the totality of who we are, all that we are, where we're 100% human and 100% divine. So it includes all of our humanness, our personality, our ego, our biases, our likes and dislikes, as well as our divinity. And because we all have some unhealed or unaddressed biases, fears, wounds in our humanness, we all have aspects of our personality that are more rooted in our humanness. That glass or that window pane, that lantern pane, may be clouded, may be distorted. And the light of spirit isn't shining through as clearly as it could. Now, there's nothing wrong with the light. Spirit is there forever doing its thing, shining its light, being a beacon of love. And as we individually address our belief systems, when we practice forgiveness, when we examine our fears, when we heal our wounds, we are healing our soul, that human part of our soul, the glass around the light. And every time we bring something up for further healing, for more forgiveness, for seeing ourselves more clearly through lenses of love, we are clearing that glass. We are cleaning it. We're making it better and brighter for that vessel of the light of God to shine through into our world. Now, our soul can change. Our soul can heal. We can become more spiritually mature, more filled with peace, more content, more loving in our thoughts, more loving in our words and in our actions. So we are each a lighthouse. We're walking around, we're doing our thing, and we're bumping into other lighthouses doing their thing. And that light of God, spirit, all that is universal love, is shining forth, always being a beacon of light, only clouded by whatever our human fears are, our misunderstandings, our confusions, wounds, and unforgiveness. And that's where the healing comes in. That is where our work is, to heal that lantern pane, to heal those aspects of our humanness that prevent us from being as connected as we want to be with one another, as being more peace-filled, which is truly what each one of us wants, to live lives of peace and harmony and expressing the love of our being. And as we become clearer in our love towards everyone and towards ourselves, healing will naturally occur. We become more tolerant of annoyances, annoyed by others, annoyed by our own failings. We allow them to be insignificant because they are. Our personalities can rub against the personality of someone else. And when that happens, when we recognize that we're rubbing against the personality of someone else, that disharmony, we can use it as a flag. That's an indicator that there is something within us yet to be healed, something to be loved, cleaning that lantern pane. Now, Myrtle Fillmore experienced her physical healing, a true physical healing, after she attended a lecture by E.B. Weeks. When she heard the words, "I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness." This was life-changing for Myrtle, because she'd been told throughout her life, beginning as a small child, as the youngest of 9 children, she had been told that she was frail and likely to inherit tuberculosis and other such diseases. And Myrtle was ill much of her adult life. It was because of her tuberculosis-like symptoms that she left her teaching job and moved to Texas for a climate change. People moved to Texas where the air was drier, and that's where she met Charles. And years later, after they'd been married and had children, Myrtle was truly close to death. The doctors had told her there was nothing else they could do for her. She and Charles were desperate. They would try anything to help Myrtle heal. And then they went to this lecture. After Myrtle heard those words, she spoke to her body every day for the next 18 months. She apologized to every organ in her body for ever thinking it was less than perfect. She spoke to every organ, blessing it for the function that it holds, thanking each part of her body for its absolute perfect work. And she was healed. She was healing her belief system as well, for she was healing that deeply rooted idea that she was born to be sickly. And when she healed that thought, her body responded. Slowly, it did take 18 months, but eventually, and when that happened, she couldn't wait to share what she found. Is it was new to her, even though she recognized it wasn't truly a new thought, been around since the ancients, but it was a new idea to her that she could heal her thoughts, heal her body with her thoughts. And she wanted to share that news with everyone, friends, neighbors, friends of friends. And when they heard what happened to her, they came to her for healing prayer, for healing sessions, for prayer sessions. And that was the beginning of Silent Unity. And all this led to the Unity movement. Learning to affirm health and wholeness regardless of appearances, to speak words of affirmation, Within the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, we find passage after passage of Jesus healing those who came to him. And often he would affirm to them, your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. He was giving the power back to those who were ill or injured. Your faith has healed you. We hear the story told of the woman who only wanted to touch his cloak. And Jesus turned to her when he saw her and said, take courage, daughter. Your faith has healed you. And the woman was cured from that moment. There was a blind beggar. Jesus asked him what he wanted, and the blind man said, let me see again. Go, said Jesus, your faith has healed you. And immediately the beggar received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. The leper was healed. The servant was healed. These stories might convey to us that with enough faith, all physical illnesses, all sickness, can be healed. So what that might tell us in opposition is that if the physical illness is not healed, we did not have enough faith. Or worse, that we caused the illness by our thoughts. And now, by our lack of faith, our negative thoughts, we cannot heal. Well, in Unity and New Thought, we call that metaphysical malpractice. For we are all part of sense consciousness. We are all one. And we believe we are all one. And even if we can't quite get to that full concept, we can believe that we are all interconnected. And if so, then sense consciousness of the world, of our planet, also affects us. Stuff happens. Illness happens. And we are responsible for how we hold what happens to us. That's where we have the power. In our thoughts of how we hold what happens to us, what we do about it, how we see it. Are we victims? Or is this simply a lesson? Is this simply something to work through, to grow through in a positive way? Now, last week I mentioned Stephen Levine, who is an author and counselor and worked with death and dying. He stated quite clearly, we are not responsible for our illness, whatever it might be. We are responsible to our illness, how we see it, what we do about it, how we hold it. And he suggests, he has had such a gentle way about him. He suggests kindness always, always kindness and grace, not in lieu of doctors or treatment, but in addition to whatever treatment path that you choose. But not to think of whatever that illness or injury is in aggressive terms, but rather lovingly releasing what no longer serves us. He would not speak to cancer as an enemy to be destroyed or a foe, but rather speak to it as you might speak to a small child, tenderly, and then invite it to leave, coax it to leave, envision it leaving. Even if it's something minor, like a cough or a sneeze, try not to be upset with yourself by wondering, is that an allergy? Or being negative towards yourself, oh, I forgot to take my vitamins. Simply being curious. Oh, a cough? That's interesting. You're not attached to it. You're not fighting it. You're simply noticing and then sending healing energy to your throat. One example he gave I thought was quite clever and really demonstrates what his view is on healing. How about when you stub your toe? When you stub your toe, instead of cursing yourself, berating yourself for having stubbed your toe in the first place, send love to that throbbing part of your body. And I know when I stub my toe, that's not my first thought, but now I know that there is an alternative to try to change how I respond to that event. My toe is calling out for attention. It hurts. Instead of being filled with negative energy about how I let that happen in the first place or what an idiot I was to do that, instead I send healing energy to that part of my body that's asking for attention. Even a sunburn or a bug bite, love your body, heal it, help that experience by thanking it for being so resilient and for healing the experience so quickly and efficiently. Praise your body for the wonderful work that it does. If your body is in pain for any reason, it is asking for your attention, and give that attention lovingly and with kindness. Now let's go back to the healings of Jesus. I have no doubt whatsoever that those healings took place exactly as they're described. Jesus was and is a powerful conduit for good, for the allness of God. And I can imagine his powerful presence because I feel his powerful presence in my life. But these stories also carry a metaphysical element. And let's look at that this morning. The woman who only wanted to touch his cloth, the woman metaphysically represents a thought. And that's true for the blind man and the leper. All these people represent thoughts held in mind. So these thoughts are brought forth to Jesus, the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is also within each one of us. And he stated that with faith, their faith made them whole. So faith was the key. Faith is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance. It's spiritual assurance. So with faith, healing occurred. And healing is to bring forth the Christ within us. And through faith, healing occurs. Healing of our mind, healing of our thoughts, our beliefs, our fears. So through faith, they were healed from thoughts of separation. Through faith, they were healed of thoughts of separation, of being separate from God, being separate from one another. Physical healing may or may not follow. But it is the healing of our inner self, our heart, of our mind, that is the most important aspect of healing. Physical healing may follow, for when we release our concern for our physical healing and focus only on healing our wounds and our fears, those human stumbling blocks that keep us from fully connecting with God, even though we're always connected, but being aware of that connection as completely and as fully as we desire. Many times our bodies will respond in kind and do their healing work. But to heal the body and not the mind, not the soul, not the thoughts, is an unhappy way of living. Healed in one sense, but suffering in another. We also know that we are all here on this planet in these bodies, in these carbon suits for a time. And that time is limited. Then we leave these bodies behind and we move on to the next experience of the soul, for the soul is eternal. So whatever we might be experiencing in this human experience, we can do so with love. We can choose to not see illness or sickness or injury as an enemy, but perhaps a teacher. We can also choose to let that teacher know that we believe we've learned whatever needed to be learned and that it is free to go. Thank our parts of the body for being so strong and persistent in healing. Thank our body for being brave and for supporting us always. And apologize to our body for ever thinking it was less than perfect. For in spirit, we are all whole and complete, perfect in every way. And our body knows that perfect blueprint. Health is the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. Wellness is this active process when we become aware of and make choices toward a fully healthy way of living. Each of you are here today, whether you're in person or you're on the internet, you're here today because you've chosen to embark on a spiritual path. A path of self-discovery, of self-healing as an overall wellness in your life. We understand and embrace the spiritual aspect of being. To be fully alive is to embrace our spirituality, to choose to be aware of the ways we can more fully express our divine selves. And it is through our spiritual journey, our spiritual work, our efforts to be more loving, more accepting, more forgiving, more fully present, that our lives are enriched and we feel the absolute wholeness of our being. Through our faith, we are healed of our thoughts of separation. We are one with God. We are one with all of life, with the fullness of love, in perfect health, and in perfect wholeness. And so it is. Amen.